I'm really pleased and honored to have him speak here today. So Bob, you have the baton. Go for it, sir.
Great. Thank you. Can you all see my screen? All right.
Yes, sir, we can.
Thank you very much. Great. Okay, thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm here to talk about values, different types of values. And so to start off, first I want to thank Nelu for putting this presentation together for me. She did a great job. So thank you very much, Nelu. I'm open for questions as we go along, but I'm asking, try to keep it to a little bit of a minimum so we can get through this. I think, Nelu, did you provide a parking lot where we can put questions?
Yes, sir. We can.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. So if there's a question, I might just ask to put it in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
I won't be checking chat, so I'm focused on this presentation and any questions that come up. So if there's something in chat, feel free to just chime in with it, or we can address it at the end of the presentation. And during this presentation, when I say I think, or some of the things I say in here, really what it is from my experience. These are the ideas that I've come from in my years of experience with values, with agile software development. So with that, let's get started. Yeah, except I have to get in my, there we go. So there's a lot of values. So this is just a small sample of the values that are out there. There are over hundreds, there are hundreds of values. Your values are the things that you believe are most important in the way you live and work. We encounter values in all aspects of our lives. We have personal values, family values, professional, moral, national, and spiritual values, just to name a few. This evening, we're going to focus on our professional or work side values. But most of these concepts and ideas apply to our personal lives too. So all the values we have. As Agile coaches and Scrum Masters, we are guided by at the very least, 3 sets of values. The first is the Agile values, and we see them here. We know them. Individuals, interactions, working software, customer collaboration, and responding to change. And this is over other values, lesser values, but these are the values from the Agile Software Development Manifesto. Then we have Scrum values, commitment, courage, focus, openness, and respect. And if you're doing safe, then that on top of that is the safe values. So we have alignment, built-in quality, program execution, and transparency. So on top of these, we add possible company values, department values, and team values. And you can see how these can be overwhelming. So that's what we're going to be addressing tonight. We use these values to promote alignment and understanding, collaboration, performance, and accountability. And for these, all these values should be consistent, compatible, like-minded, and well-suited. So I say like-minded because remember, Agile software development is a mindset. So these all address a mindset. Our values are a mindset. And well-suited. All these values should work together and be suited for what we're doing. So if we're doing it at work and we're doing software development, all these values we talk about, all the values we come up with should work together for and be well suited for what we're doing. So definitions of values. 2 definitions of values. This is straight from the dictionary. The value of something, what it's worth. Okay, that's not what we're going to be talking about tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about a person's principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. So values should complement our culture, our beliefs, and be reflected in our actions. So values are stable, long-lasting beliefs about what is important to a person. They become standards by which the person order their lives and make their choices. A belief will develop into a value when the person's commitment to it grows and they see it as being important. So you replace this, a person, with a company. So a company's values become long-lasting, and that's what we're talking about tonight. So this is just the framework, foundation of what we're going to talk about when we're talking about values tonight. So to me, there are 4 different sets of values. There are core values, there are minimal behavioral values, there are unintended or accidental values, and there are aspirational values. And we are going to be discussing, or I'm going to be presenting from each of these tonight, and hopefully we'll have time for collaboration, and then we'll have a couple of activities at the end. Core values. Core values are traits or qualities that are not just worthwhile. They represent an organization's highest priorities, deeply held beliefs, and are core, fundamental driving forces. They are the heart of what your organization and its employees stand for in the world and what differentiates your company from your competitors. These are how you want your organization resonating with and appealing to employees and current and potential future customers. The core values should be so integrated with your employees and their belief systems and actions that clients, customers, and vendors see the values in action. So these are my guidelines for core values. Oops. Sorry. So our core values should support and complement the company vision. Okay. If your company doesn't have a compelling vision, I would say start looking for a new company, because the vision, to me, the vision of the company is core. This is what you come into work for or go to work for. This is what should be your unifying driving force that differentiates you from your competitors. So this is the best place to start. Instead of starting with core values, make sure you start with a compelling vision. Why would you want to work for a company that doesn't have a compelling vision? And maybe that's another session we can have, is talking about a company's vision and how to create a vision. So let me give you an example of a core value supporting or complementing a vision. So this is just an offhand vision. So let's say my vision is to be an Olympic athlete, okay? If I don't have core values that support that, that is really not a good vision. So I would say my vision is being an Olympic athlete. I would say one of my core values would probably be a selfish dedication to practice. Because if you are going to be an Olympic athlete, it's going to take a lot of training and a lot of practice. So that is one of the differentiations of high performing athletes, is their dedication to practice. It's shown that it just is hours and hours, tens of thousands of hours of practice that differentiate the different levels of athletes. So if becoming an athletic Olympic athlete is my vision, an antithetical core value would be just enough is good enough. So if I have that as a core value, you can see where I'm not going to get to my vision. So that's when I say that the core values should complement and support the vision. That is what I mean. So the core values should be created, understood, and agreed upon by all team members. Now, if we're talking about company or department core values, there should be some representative of the team be involved, because the team has to do what the core value says. So they should have some representation when the core values of the company or the department are created. And if you don't agree with the core values of the company, you do have a say, and you have a say by leaving the company. So if you find yourself at odds with the values, the core values of your company, you should consider leaving it, because you should be uncomfortable working for a company that doesn't share your core values. So, and then creating them. this is a difficult process. On our team, on the teams I've been on, we struggled with creating our core values. It's not easy. And when I say struggled, we had quite a few sessions where we were discussing and creating our core values. But when we did it, we had to, when I say understood, that the core values understood, that all the words in the core value are understood, and everybody has a consistent meaning what the words mean. So when we say our core value is the previous example, selfish dedication to practice. What do we mean by practice? Does it include training? Does it include our diet? Does it include this? So everybody has to agree what we mean by the words that are used in the core values and have agreement. So, and now I'm staying at the team level, that the team creates and understands and agrees upon the core values they come up with their team. I prefer that the core values are kept to a 5-word maximum. It just gets too complicated if you have too many, and it's not easy to understand and remember. So keep them, I prefer like 2, 3 words as a core value. It just makes it tighter. And I feel that there should be at most 4 core values for a team, 4 core values for a department, 4 core values for a company. I prefer 3. Because if you see you start layering these one upon another, it's hard for people to remember what the core values are, remember what they are, and hold each other accountable to them. So that's why I prefer 3 core values. You should be able to say, we are going to support and complement our vision with these 3. And again, your team should have a vision. A company should have a vision, a department should have a vision, and a team should have a vision, and they should all complement one another. So core values are not minimal behavioral values. We'll get into those, and they're not wishful thinking. Okay, so when I say wishful thinking, Enron's core values were respect, integrity, communication, and excellence. Do you think that they really embodied that? No. I mean, that was probably wishful thinking, okay? And to me, all of these are not really core values that support a vision, but these are minimal behavioral values. So there's a differentiation there. Core values should drive you towards your vision. Every team member should be able to remember and recite the core values. And that's why I like to keep them down to 3 with a maximum of 5 words. So they're easy to remember, and they have meaning, and they understand the meaning. Because these are used to hold each other accountable, to make sure we're all going in the same direction, we're all working together. And when I say hold each other accountable, it is not to criticize or judge your team members, but it's to improve each other, to improve the team. We use these core values to make sure we're all in sync. We're not using it to criticize or judge our team members. This is a guiding light. This is a beacon on how we behave and how we deliver value to the company. These core values are used in the self-organizing process. And when I say that, I mean your core values should be used in the hiring process. On our team, when we got about 3/4 of the way through an interview, if a candidate got through that far, we would share what our core values are and our company's core values and make sure that they were agreeable and acceptable to it. And we said, these are what you are going to be held accountable. You have to accept it. If you can't accept them, be honest to yourself and be honest to us, because you're wasting your time and you're wasting our time. And that's another reason these core values they should be simple and few so everybody can understand them and we can hold each other accountable and we can self-organize them. And the reason I say self-organizing, because we also used our core values to remove people from the team. And I thought it was easier and nicer to say self-organizing, and Rick knows I'm not very nice very often, so I attempted. So we did use our core values to remove two of our team members at different times. And it's not just we said, well, you didn't meet these core values. No, we worked together. We said, okay, we saw this happen and it was against what our core values, and it was a conversation, it was an agreement. Yes, we understood, but they could not live up to the core values. So we said, we think it's best for you and for the team, for you to move on to another team. Two different situations. They both went to other teams and eventually they left the company because they could not live the core values. So, and these are not written in stone. These core values should be revisited on occasion. The occasions would be, as your vision changes, your vision may change. As the market changes, as the value being delivered changes, you might want to revisit your core values. And be honest, if you see your core values are holding back the team, are not promoting the team, revisit them. Spend some time and revisit your core values. Minimal behavioral values. These are generally team-centric values. Generally, I don't know of too many companies that have minimal behavior values, but my teams had minimal behavior values, and these were team-centric. These are the values that help the team understand behavioral expectations and help the team become highly functional and high performing. And that's what I mean by it. It helps the values that the team needs to perform to become highly functional and high performing. So everybody understands these are the values that we're holding. It's again created, understood, and agreed upon by all team members because they hold each other accountable. But what these also do is drive conversation. These drive conversation by the team members, what they agree is important to the team members. And again, we had quite a few conversations. And one of the things we found, so one of our minimal behavioral values was commitment. Well, we had a long conversation. What does commitment mean? How far do we take commitment? But it drove conversation. And also, it provides transparency. And you see how all these things are working in conjunction with the other values we've seen, the agile values, the Scrum values. So these all work together, and there's a purpose for them. So, again, try to limit them to 4. Be careful about overlapping values. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but there may be minimal behavior values. There may be values that are not important to the team. One minimal behavior value may be thankfulness. Team may decide, we don't want to consider that as a minimal behavior value. It's not important to us as a team. Harmony. Some teams may say harmony is a minimal behavior value. Others may say, no, that excludes conflict. Well, there is constructive conflict. So be careful about the minimal behavior values you pick. And quite honestly, some teams might say, well, starting a meeting on time is a behavior value we want to set. Other teams might say, no, that's not an important value to us. So again, you work on this as a team, find out as a team what's important. And some minimal behavioral values may not just apply, like patriotism. Well, that's a value, but it may not be for a team. Justice, probably not for a team. So be careful about overlapping values. So when I say that, make sure that, so one team might say, okay, these are our minimal behavioral values: quality, excellence, correctness, thoroughness. Those are all about the same thing. So you're using 4 different values that address the same thing. So be very careful about that and try to distill the whole concept of those different values into a single all-encompassing value. If you're going to go down that road, make sure you don't have overlapping core value or minimal behavioral values, because you're trying to limit yourself to 4. Again, every team member should remember and be able to recite not only the minimal behavioral values, but again, the core values. they're used to communicate behavioral expectations of team members, and also the behavior values that other teams can expect of your team. You should be freely communicate what your minimal behavioral values are that your team has to other teams, so they know what to expect from you. So these behavioral expectations may change as a team moves through forming, storming, norming, and performing, right? So you may have, as you're forming, you may say, okay, part of the forming, we're going to say these are our minimal behavioral values. And as you move through storming and norming and performing, you will want to revisit these and change these. Or they may be able to change as the team sees, well, this minimal behavior value isn't working, or we've embraced it so much, it just now comes natural. And so you say, well, now we want to add another minimal behavior value. And again, when we were doing our hiring process, we would present our minimal behavior values to our candidate. After we presented the core values, we would then say, these are our minimal behavior values. Again, you should be able to embrace these. And if anything, it drove conversation. But at least we were transparent on what our expectations were. And I think it helped a lot and made sure that, you know, they were comfortable with us and we were comfortable with them. Unattended or accidental values. This is how the teams function, behave, self-organize, and that haven't been formalized, okay? These are generally developed unintentionally, as the word says. I had a team that we did this exercise trying to figure out what our unintended values were. And we realized that all team members were all white and in their 30s, except for one old guy that was on the team. So we said, well, there's a problem here in that we lack diversity. So it wasn't intentional. It's just that the way it happened. So we said, okay, excuse me, this is an unattended, and we realize it opens us up to not performing as a high-performing team. And another example of that, so that was sort of like a negative unintended value. Another unintended value we saw is that team members that were not on call were noticing when a call situation happened, and they were reaching out to the team member on call or the team members on call, see if they needed help. That was just phenomenal. This team blew me away. I could not, you know, we were supporting a payment processing platform, and certain members would be on call, and on weekends, other team members would be, you know, they just log in to do something. They'd say, oh, it looks like we have a problem here. Do you need help? Or they would reach out to another one. And one time there was an example where a team member that wasn't on call solved the problem and then told the next person the next day, I solved this for you. And it just was unintended, but there's also good unintended values. So if you want to figure out, one of the ways to figure out what your unintended or accidental values are, look at how you spend your time, okay? What do you do? If you spend most of your day in unproductive meetings, you know, you may have done it so long that you don't realize how much time you're spending in meetings, and more importantly, unproductive meetings. So you say, well, okay, we need to address this. It's not a value we want, but it's an unintended value because it's actually the way we're doing things. So when you go through this exercise, it may expose surprises. Like we had when we realized we lacked diversity, we valued on our team. So we said we valued diversity, but we were not living that value. It wasn't a formal value, but we understood the value of a diverse team. So you may expose surprises when you go through your exercise to uncover unintended or accidental values. Aspirational values. This is where we want to be. So one of our aspirational values became diversity, because during our unintended values, we realized we didn't have diversity. So we realized that diversity was a goal because we understood how much better our team could perform if we had a diverse team. And I believe most people understand the value of having diversity. So we knew the why of this. We had to formulate the how. We had to say, this is our goal, to become a more diverse team. And this is how we're going to do it. So when we started our hiring process for an open position, we were more intentional about reaching out to diverse members of the community to make sure that we became more diverse. Excuse me. So aspirational values may supplant existing minimal behavioral values. And these aspirational values, we may not formalize as minimal behavioral values or core values, but we'll say it does take intent, persistence, and time. If we're aspiring to it, obviously it's going to take work. So we have to be persistent and we have to have intention. And we must be willing to provide the time to reach these aspirational values. Oh, sorry again. And also, we formalized the plan and how we were going to reach that, and then we tracked our process. So again, these are all concepts we know about. So consider those when you're looking at your aspirational values and how you're going to implement your aspirational value. Make sure you're tracking them. Okay. Wow, we're just moving along. We're going to get done early tonight. I'm going to give you an early release. So poll, I'm going to have a poll. So poll 1, I'm going to put out to you is, what are the core values of the South Florida Agile Association? What do you think the core values of the South Florida Agile Association are? And I want to see something other than free as in beer. So. Nelu, who's going to be showing the results? Are you? Should I stop presenting?
Oh, everyone can see my screen, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can use the link I just shared on the chat, and there you go.
Oh, can we submit more than one, or do we only get one response?
I think we can all get one response.
Oh, okay. I'd rather have been able to respond 3, but I didn't communicate that to you. Sorry.
I can submit more than one.
Oh.
Oh, more than one? Okay.
Yeah, I can't.
Thank you, Victoria.
I think you may need to hyphen or underscore a sentence.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, more than one word needs a underscore or something. You're correct.
That's right.
Saba.
I forgot about that. Thank you. Give another minute or so. All right, I got to add one.
Can I ask whoever got there who's unmuted and has some kind of audio going on in the background to mute themselves? Thank you.
Bob, I actually think it's on your side. I think everyone's muted.
Okay.
Just so you know.
I was going to ask if it was going when he was talking, so I thought maybe his TV is running.
Yeah, let's mute Bob. There you go.
All right, so we can see that there were quite a few. The big ones seem to be community, and I'm surprised Free as in Beer didn't make it more. So
It's at the top.
But we follow instructions. You said you wanted to see more than that.
yes, thank you. So what was one of the problems with coming up with core values for the South Florida Agile Association? We don't know the vision, right? We don't know the vision of South Florida Agile Association. So it would be hard to come up with core values because remember, core values are what you use to support and complement the vision. So again, that was another challenge. And now if we were doing this, we would start, we'd start discussing this. Poll one went away from me. So anybody have any thoughts about this?
About the exercise, about the vision.
Well,
which one do you want us to talk about? There's a lot.
Well, okay. So again, I see one suggestion was respect. Now remember, that may be a minimal behavioral value.
Okay.
Would be that. So we want to make sure that our core values are something that's going to drive us and support and complement the vision. So again, I'm not saying it isn't, but be very careful that you differentiate between minimal behavior values and core values. So both of these are good, and your team should be coming up with both of those. But again, how many people do we have here? 30 people, 34 people. It's kind of hard to come up with in 5 minutes core values for. We're all members of the South Florida organization, South Florida Agile Association, and we know why we're members. And we should ask ourselves, why are we members? What do I value about being a member? Obviously, we value what they're doing because we are participants. So again, one of mine was the give back. I appreciate all that people give back, all that people give as part of the Agile Association. And the other one was knowledge sharing. And again, I appreciate all that. So I've gained a lot from that. I seem to be doing a lot of talking. I'm surprised nobody else is saying much.
No, you tell us when you want us to interrupt, because we got a lot. I got a lot of things.
Go ahead.
I'm actually also a little surprised that diversity and tolerance didn't show up, didn't surface as much. That actually surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, me too, because we are very diverse.
Very diverse.
We are.
And distributed. And that's one of the things I value about this.
I think that comes back to a conversation I had with one team is, do we think about our diversity enough, or do we dismiss it because we feel we're diverse enough? And that's a serious question. You know?
Hey, Bob.
Yes.
You said something that really resonated with me, and as I was trying to think of something to put down, I'm like, it was really difficult initially to come up with it because I think we know the vision, but I don't know we know the vision. How many of us really know the vision?
I do not, because I went to the website and looked for it and didn't see it. So I don't know it.
So did I.
But I don't know it. So
All right. Okay, who's responsible for that? Come on, come on. Let's blame it on somebody out there.
That's not how we work.
Uh,
Rick.
Let's
No, that's not how we work, but I think we all have our own interpretation. So it's
Right.
all on us. Maybe what we need to do is have a meeting outside of this meeting tonight, and maybe like that's what we need to do. Bob, thank you for opening our eyes on to this. This
Yeah.
is very valuable.
you're welcome.
You
Yeah,
know
that's
what was interesting for Saturday? We were working with one of the coaches. They told us to pick out something, and this is what I chose.
Vision. That's what's on your wall?
Yeah.
There you go.
Good job.
So yeah, I mean, we made a hone in on that.
Going back to the question about diversity and respect, is that one of those things that requires a lot of trust in order to be able to bring up?
It should, and that is part of this. To me, that is part of this whole exercise of coming up with your core values and your minimal behavior values. There has to be trust.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure the team is mature enough
Yeah.
to be able to.
Trust or a whole lot of courage.
Teams, you should work on at least the top 3 by that point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, trust or a whole lot of courage, Bob. Because one of the things I remember working a little bit with IPC is you guys were a vocal bunch. Courage was not lacking, which is great to work with.
Yeah, and as I said before, maybe you build some of this by having these conversations. Again, when you're forming your team, when your team is forming or storming, maybe this is an exercise that will help them along. You don't have to be right. I mean, the value is in the planning and not in the plan. So the value is in the exercise, not in the output. There is value in the output, but more of the value is probably in talking this, the conversation, the back and forth. And again, the no fear of conflict, because it is healthy conflict. And it may drive that. And these are all good things. So even if you have a team that's forming, it might be an exercise you want to do. I feel only good can come of this if you have a good Agile coach, Scrum Master leading and can handle conflict resolution, can handle the questioning that we get.
So Bob, again, we go a long way. For me, this is one of the most powerful tools you can use as a coach. When you start a values exercise, you're hitting the core of what the group represents, right? That unity, that, hey, this bonds us as a team. It's a very powerful tool. It's one of the ones that I don't understand why people avoid it. I don't understand why doesn't have the high intensity that I would, encourage, but it's so powerful. In fact, working at IPC, as we mentioned before, we had these values where that's all I needed to have. Or at an organizational level, we had 3 values, and that's all I needed to have. From there, no matter what I did, as long as I met that, I knew that I was in the right. Right? I was heading in the right direction. And that's very powerful. That means I could talk to anybody the way I needed to talk to anybody, of course, with respect. But as long as I followed that, looking at that, it gave me a lot.
Do you remember the core values we had? The 3
Yes.
we had?
Yes.
So
This
was
is
humble
focus.
Professionalism, franchisee focus, and get her done. I don't
Get her
remember.
done. I get her done.
You're
with-
done.
Yeah.
Can you guys repeat those 3, please?
Right. So wait a second. But those were the 3. You notice all aspects of this. They had at most 5 words. There were only 3 of them, and they resonated with the team. Go ahead, Rick.
And we would never forget it. Franchisee focus, humble professional, and make things happen. But they had to actually be together. It wasn't, you couldn't actually break it apart, because if you make things happen, you can actually take that in a negative way as well, right? Break all the rules, just make things happen. But we actually put that all together and saying you need to make sure you're following all of it, in a concatenated way. But again, the power of the team aspect of it was also major. And remember, this is key. You have corporate values. You need to add additional values for your team. should not be the same. Yes, the corporate value is the umbrella. That means you need to follow that to work at IPC. But now, what's special about your team? And how Bob was mentioning, it's so key when you approach another team to understand that. I'm telling you, some teams value fun. You know who those teams are. They're always joyful and they're always, so if you go in there and you can't take it, where they're always laughing or making jokes, that's just not your team. While some other teams, and I hate to say the group, sometimes the database team or whatever you want, they're very anal. Start on time, end on time, and it's more like, we do business here. We get going, and that's what provided energy for them, and that is fine. So the hard part as coach, we talk about situational awareness and being able to adapt your leadership style. How do you do that? How do you adapt to say, wait a minute, I have to be this team enjoys having fun, so I need to make sure that I can understand that, culturally understand that from that area, and not judge it as a negative thing, right? Because how many times do you walk around the floor and you're thinking, are those guys really working? Look at them. They seem like they're just talking all the time. They're ganging up. Remember that, Bob? That was the first thing that people would say when they would come into our thing. It was like, we don't understand this. Like, this agile stuff doesn't make sense to me. Why is that group coming together like that? Isn't that time right now? Isn't that budget? So it's a big eye-opening experience. But the value is massive. This is how you hold each other accountable. This is how you fire and hire for. So if you want to get rid of, if somebody doesn't fit your organization. Now, here's the funny part. And I know Bob said that some people had to leave, but I can tell you this. You can leave a group and be very successful in another group. I do not feel like that is death for you. There are some times that you go into another group and you're successful. You're successful. It's just, it is what it is. So I cherish this. This is the most powerful tool that I use all the time. This is what I start when I do leadership coaching, when I do team coaching. This is essential.
Yeah, and I think it was Paul asked the question originally, is with these three core values, the vision was to increase the franchisee profitability by, I think, 40% in 2 years or something amazing like that. So that's why franchisee focus was important. And also make things happen, get her done. If you are getting it done where you're improving the franchisee's profitability, that was acceptable. That was what our driving force was, to focus on franchisee profitability, because that was the vision. So, and again, humble professionalism. Yeah, well, you don't start crowing about everything you did, because the team's doing it together. So, and to support what Rick said is, yes, there is a lot of value in the doing it, but look, there's a lot of value with the product, with the outcome, with the output. There's a lot of value, and you keep building on it.
I can tell you, Bob, that when I'm helping an organization through their transformation, that's the first thing I look at. I don't want to give out names, but I've gone to banks that wanted to get, go through the transformation, and their values are so strong and so command and control that agile might not work until you decide a different view. And you need to make sure you understand. Now, I see another organization, they have values that are very, open. Wow, that has potential. Those are quick stoppers for me. This is not a company that I'm going to be, or that's going to be successful, and that's fine. I actually do not have an issue with companies feeling that they can do other things their way and be successful. They do. But it does help me understand whether that's going to initially work or not.
So Rick, other than having companies that have very tight and hard and fast guidelines, what kind of other issues have you come up with and faced, and how have you kind of dealt with them?
Oh my God. You want me to put you a plethora of...
How much time do we have, Rick?
Yeah. Let's make that another session.
30 minutes.
I think that could be another session. So.
That's
not enough.
Well, 1 or 2 examples, please.
But let me give you one, right? So, and it's very basic. It's this mindset change, right? It's the ability to have that growth mindset. And I know my Cal team must be going, Rick, we've been doing, Cal is certified agile leader that we've been working on. So we've been talking about these topics, but this whole idea of growth mindset and understanding the leaders, whether they actually exhibit that, whether they're ready for change, whether they're ready for learnings. And it's not about them giving them the answer. It's that they want to learn. They seek to understand. They seek to try to figure something different. So that is something that immediately tells me this person has the capability. I like people talking, even if I like people going through the motions. Even, I know it sounds really weird. You're not going to like this. I like people going through the motion even though they're not there yet, because it's practice. So sometimes you'll hear an executive talk, blah, 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 and saying all the key words. At least that's a starting block. They might not be doing it, but at least they're talking about it, and maybe that circuitry would actually work and maybe dive a little deeper. So those are some two little quick, tidbits of some of the executive coaching or some of the things that I look for. But we can have a long discussion on that one, and that would be great.
Yeah. And remember, these core values, minimal behavior values, are mindsets, and they are culture related too. So again, it all drives together. As Rick was saying, I don't think we can fully emphasize the importance of these and doing it. I mean, you might not do it right to start with, but you will learn. Again, we're agile. We deliver minimal value first, and we incrementally improve.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
It's Christina. I have a question for you, and I'm sorry I joined the session a little bit later, so you may have already covered it. But one of the things that we talked about was how having, creating these values sometimes required trust in a team, right? To be able to come up with the right ones. So I've also heard other people say, well, when you get into a team, you've got to create the value. So it's like, you have to come up with those values. So when is that best time to get the team to create this value? Is it in the beginning so that they have some kind of roadmap? Or do we wait a little bit until this team has established some kind of trust and then get them to do something, knowing, as you've mentioned, that you constantly want to kind of like go back and revisit? But when is that first time?
I'm with Rick. I say almost immediately, soon, because what you will do is it will help them build that trust. Right. It will help them expose, well, we don't have this trust. We do have a fear of conflict. These are things we need to work out. And we as coach and scrum master can say, okay, again, one of the first things I do when I assess a team is look at the 5 dysfunctions of the team. Do I see the trust? Do I see the constructive conflict, or do I see a fear of conflict, and all these things? So you try it. You give again, the value is in the planning to start with. The value is in creating these and say, this is what we have, and then see how it works. All right, come up with 2 core values, and it gets them focusing on the company vision. It gets them focusing on their team vision and how we're going to go ahead and meet these things. What core values are we going to have? Let us think how we're going to do it. But this tries the how we're going to meet these visions. What values are we going to embody? And it also allows the team to hold each other accountable, not as a judgmental way, but saying we need to improve. And then we revisit it. We say, okay, this core value we need to refine. We didn't quite get it right. Or this one just isn't working. We need to, but when you say it's not working, why isn't it working, and what would work in its place better? So it's an evolutionary thing. Minimal value, core values.
Yeah, you know what, I agree with that, because I think at the very least there is so much value in that conversation. And if you are a scrum master or an agile coach, you're observing and you're listening, and that's helping you determine how you could best coach the team too. So I agree with that. Thanks.
And I would add, Christina, remember that they're voting, which also you're empowered. You're showing them the first step of agile, which is empowerment. Yeah. You guys get to vote on what you think is important, and whatever you guys rank up, now you own as a team. That's a lesson by itself, and a great one for them to go through. Right? So
this is Sheila. With this group, we talked about diversity, and you were wondering why it didn't show up as a core value. I think because with this group, it's really one of the minimal values. I mean, you have a Spanish-speaking group that's sounds like it's bigger or as big as the English speaking group. That's unusual for Agile groups. And when I look at who's involved in this meeting, it's a very diverse group already. So that's a minimum value. So it doesn't belong on the core values list for this group. In some groups it would.
Right. I would say it's more an unintended value or an accidental value, but an unintended, as the one team, lack of diversity was an unintended value. With this team, diversity is an unintended value, but in a good way. We have a lot of diversity. So that's why I wasn't surprised that it didn't come up as a core value. You're exactly right, Sheila. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, can we go on to the second poll?
I don't know. We still got more questions here.
We can stay on this with questions.
No,
So,
let me add one more thing to you, Bob.
Sure.
When he said about 3 of them, 3 values, that's important. I'm telling you that we tried to go to 5. This is silly, but we tried to actually go to 5 values. I don't know if you remember, Bob and Christina, where we expanded our values organization-wide, and no one could repeat what the 5 values were. It was not innate to them. We could not actually.
No, I think we actually went to like 12, from 5 to 12.
Yeah,
and no one remembered a thing. And then we had to go back because the only ones they did remember were the 3 that we had before. So I get it. Yep, that's true.
Those are the ones that mattered too. Those were the important ones. So they pretty much called it for us. Because I remember we were at 7, and I just couldn't remember them. And so that's why I like 3 is the best. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we can continue. This conversation is great. I have no problem with continuing it if you would like.
No, go ahead, Bob. Go ahead.
Okay.
Make sure your time.
All right. This next poll is for me, and it's probably even harder. And I appreciate the diversity of this team when I ask this poll. What are the core values of the United States of America? We all know about them. We all live it. And we all know how we operate. So again, thank you. So what are the core values of the United States of America?
That's a loaded question.
They're shifting, I agree.
Is it now or is it was? Or is it what we want it to be?
Well, it's now because it's what we want to be. That's an aspirational value, right? If it was, we don't look back at core values. What do we think are the core values currently are of this? We may not be living to these core values, but these are what we believe the core values of the United States of America are. Whether we are not, whether we are holding ourselves accountable to these values is something else. So then if we say, yes, these are what we think the core values are, how are we going to hold each other accountable toward them? Remember, core values are used to hold accountable. So I'm going mute now while I have that.
$1,200.
we'll leave it open for a few more minutes. We got the time.
So I put in a few inputs, but having freedom, I also put in free bear.
Yeah, that goes without saying, man.
I had the freedom to do that as a value.
Exactly.
And just to be a pain, I almost put it to make it go bigger. But I didn't.
Marcel, you didn't add to that?
I was the first person to answer the poll. Because you know me, I speak my mind.
Yes, you did. Wouldn't have it any other way. What's Darth Vader's?
Aren't those an interesting 3 words to have in the middle?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Actually,
pretty much.
I thought the Darth Vaderism was you, Joe.
No. I'm more of a Yoda fan.
Thank
Those
you.
those three in the middle are strong.
Marcel, I wore my Yoda t-shirt Saturday and you weren't there.
Oh, well. I was down for the count. I looked more like a pirate on Saturday than anything else.
All right, very good. Thank you all for that. It pretty much supports my thoughts too, and we can see what it seems like a theme is bubbling up here, what our core values should be, and so this could be continued on. It was for my curiosity how a diverse group like this would see it, and it seems like we are pretty much of one mind, which is not unexpected because these are very key core values. And again, I think these are things we hold dearly, we cherish, and that's why we're here.
Love it, Bob.
So you want me to finish up?
Yep. Remember, we need some time at the end to make sure we.
Oh yeah. All right. So let me finish up. I'm going to start sharing again. Bear with me. Yeah. And again, bear with. Okay. So we're done with poll 2. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. So this quote I like: values are like fingerprints. Nobody's are the same, but you leave them all over everything you do. Does anybody want to venture a guess on who said that? Nope. Okay. Elvis Presley. I was very surprised. So it was impressive. Okay. So, nope, wrong way again. That's all, folks. One final thing to say. Personally, values should determine your priorities, and deep down, they're probably the measure you use to tell if your life is turning out the way you want it to. Values exist whether you recognize them or not. Life can be much easier when you acknowledge your values and when you make plans and decisions that honor them. Done. I just dropped the mic. Thank you all.
Oh, Bob.
Great job, Bob.
Way to go, Bob.
Thank you all for bearing with me tonight. I enjoyed it.
Great job, Bob.
Okay, Bob. You
very
gave
much.
maximum Bob.
Yeah, that's,
Thank you.
maximum
Now
Bob.
I leave it off to
Maximum
Rick.
Bob. Thank
So
you. You
both-
left it out there.
You
All
all
right.
should get hazard duty
No Bob about it.
pay because you're